viewers and possibly some vinyl community members. This is Chris. Got a miscellaneous video to do. A couple of references or shout outs to other VC channels, and so yeah, it'll become more clear hopefully as I go through this. But a recent pickup was this Bob Dylan album, Saved, from 1980. I think this was part of that Christian trilogy thing that he did back around that time. But I saw this for $1 or $2 on some eBay site, I think it was, possibly Discogs, some seller. So thought I'd try that. And this one is due to Matt Hayes. He had mentioned, months ago, an eBay seller, Kerry Carter 76, who had these auctions. He's an English or a UK seller, ships worldwide with no free shipping, and has auctions with minimum bid prices on everything. So this was something that I had picked up from him, three-wheelers, not familiar with it, but it's on the folk label, folk record label, seems to be out of Germany. This was, sounds like a folk record, maybe because it's on the folk label. The front cover appears to be a paste-on, though it's not. The back cover is a paste-on piece of paper on this plain white sleeve. So these look like traditional folk songs done with traditional folk instruments. This was recorded in August of 75, I think. Yeah, August 75 by the Three Wheelers. So that's about as much as I know at the moment. Another VC video that I watched, though I forgot who it was now, they showed the Woods Band. And while I couldn't get that one, I got this sort of follow-up, Gay and Terry Woods, The Time Is Right. This is from sometime later than the early 70s. This is on Polydor 1976. So, UK folk band music. Again, due to seeing a reference to something similar to this on another VC video. It could have been Zeke the Vinyl Geek, but I'm not sure. Whoever it was the Woods Band that they showed rather than Gay and Terry Woods, which was later. And then Billy Hurst was the one that convinced me to get this album here, the Steve Earle album. I showed this in my last recent acquisitions, but I didn't give any credit. I think I'd seen at least two people show it, but Billy Hurst was the most recent one, and he was the one that convinced me that I should go get this. So this is Steve Earle and the Dukes doing a tribute to Guy Clark. So a two-record set on New West Records. And as I mentioned, when I did pick that one up, I got this one, Towns, which is similar, Steve Earle doing a tribute to Townes Van Zandt. Another two-record set on put out by New West. So, you know, from what I've streamed of those online, you know, those are very good. Of course, the original artists are good too. And then I saw a Richard Riley video recently, and he showed this Doc Watson album, which I didn't recognize. Turned out didn't recognize it because it was fairly new. So Doc and Merle Watson, Never the Same Way Once, live at the boarding house, May 2nd, 1974. So another 2 LP set. Put out in 2017 on the Owsley Stanley Foundation label. And this one I got fairly cheap because there was some problem with it where these 2 corners got bent. But other than that, it appears to be in good shape. So here's the label. I think it says Sonic. Bears Sonic Journals. So, Doc Watson, some folk, bluegrass type roots music. And then the rest of this, I think, is all related because I saw a earlier today James Giffiths video. He did one on John Cale, showed off his collection. So I also will show some overlapping albums with what he had shown, but I'll leave some other ones out because there was some mention by Grandma's Handbag, Dean, that he was hoping that there would be a follow-up video because this only covered sort of up through the 80s, and so John Cale has a significant catalog from the 80s and beyond. So these are some of the other ones in that same time frame. One of the albums that James showed was Homo Sapiens, I think, but he showed the vinyl version, which had a different cover. And of course I could be just misconstruing this, but this was 2003 issue Homo Sapiens, H-O-B-O. And then another one he showed was Paris 1919. So here's a reissue of that album, a Rhino reissue. This was put out originally in 1973, and this one has 11 bonus tracks on it. Originally on Reprise Records. This was reissued in 2006. And then some other ones. He showed the John Cale, Terry Riley album, Church of Anthrax, where they got together. Here's the another early one. John Cale involvement, Tax Free, 1969 maybe, where John Cale lends his electric viola to the group on Polydor label. John Cale with the band Tax Free. And another significant early one with John Cale, this June 1st, 1974. Kevin Ayers, John Cale, Eno, and Nico. So half of the Velvet Underground there, plus some other assorted luminaries from a concert in '74. And this also includes a version of the Cale interpretation of Heartbreak Hotel, which James Giffiths mentioned on one of the regular studio releases by John Cale. So there's that. On this Tropical Island label. And he mentioned Chris Spedding being a guitarist with him for several years. So here's a release credited to Cale and Chris Spedding. This is down at the end of Lonely Street at the Hard Rock Hotel, live in Stockholm, 1975. On the Archivio label. And this also includes Heartbreak Hotel, plus Paris 1919 and Pablo Picasso by the Modern Lovers and Jonathan Richman. And these aren't in any particular order, just probably how I pulled them off the shelf. An EP, John Cale. This includes Chicken Shit, Memphis, and Hedda Gabler, with John Cale and Richie Fleegler on lead guitar. On Illegal Records, Animal Justice, EP. And here's another collaboration. Lou Reed, John Cale, and Nico. This is from Paris, January 29th, 1972. Bootleg. Nico with John Cale. This is at CBGB's in New York City, August 79. On the Archivio label again, this is a 2 CD set. Mostly Nico compositions on here, if not all Nico. John Cale, Sabotage Live. So this is also at CBGB, June 1979. John Cale and the whole gang, including Chris Spedding, and Nico. Hello, Marseille, France. April 12, 1975, another version of Heartbreak Hotel, Pablo Picasso, The Jeweler, which I think was a Velvet Underground track, Child's Christmas in Wales, some classic tracks there. And the last two, John Cale, Guts. James Giffiths mentioned him with the mask. So there he is with his mask on. With the Black Island label. Guts. This includes Chris Spedding and Phil Manzanera on guitar. And does this have a date on it? 1977 was the release date on this thing. Even has Phil Collins and Eno, Andy McKay. Another version of Heartbreak Hotel. Another version of Pablo Picasso. Helen of Troy. Fear is man's best friend. So, sort of a greatest hits selection there. And then the final showing Even Cowgirls Get the Blues on Danceteria. The Roar Sessions. So this was late 70s. 77, 79. CBGB, December of 78 and December of 79. With Richie Fleegler on lead guitar. Even has a typo on the label where they misspelled December. December. So Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. John Cale. So thanks for James Giffiths for showing that and giving a good description of everything. Those were just some things to fill in the gaps, and there's still, you know, the 90s and beyond to do for a separate video. So thanks everybody. See you later. And the final album I almost forgot about, in another shout out to a VC channel, Michael P. Dawson. He recently did a video on showcasing Simon & Garfunkel's Bookends album. And he referenced this compilation, The New Age of Atlantic, because it had a rare version of America, a Paul Simon composition that Yes did on here. So they did a 10-minute and 30-second version of the Paul Simon song America. And so I had commented that when I think of this compilation, I normally think of, this was the first place where that I ever found the Led Zeppelin song Hey, Hey, What Can I Do? It seemed like it was only on this compilation, and then later they added it to, they released it on a regular album, but on this Atlantic label, around 1972. Don't know if it actually says on here or not. Yeah, 1972 was when they put out this compilation. Also includes Bonnie Delaney, Buffalo Springfield, Dr. John, with a track from The Sun, the Moon, and Herbs, Loudon Wainwright the Third, John Prine, Jay Giles. So, just wanted to mention that. Michael didn't have the album any longer, so I thought I'd show my version of it. So, there you go. Thanks, everyone.